We all have a destructive side, and sometimes that carries on to our relationships. Well, psychologist Dr. Guy is here to talk about sabotage and how we can stop that destructive behavior. So where do you begin with the sabotage?
Well,
what is the sabotage?
Well,
yeah.
hey, let me get all professor on you here.
Okay,
we
like that.
We need to define
Should
our
I be
terms
taking
here.
notes? Is this gonna be on the exam?
Get out your clipboard, get out your laptop. There's probably three flavors of sabotage that people need to recognize. The first is sabotage. It's the willful destroying of the relationship, the willful damaging of the relationship, primarily because people lack courage. Primarily because they don't want to take responsibility for the relationship not working well or their own bad behavior in it. And so they try to put that onto the other person. They say, well, I'm going to act badly until the other person says, okay, this relationship is over. Okay. So there's that kind of...
Coward.
So this is
very
like when your
coward,
boyfriend picks a fight over something and you're like, what's that?
We're not fighting about that. There's something else going on here. There's that flavor.
Yes.
The second flavor, and this is probably the most common, is being passive aggressive. Okay, so that's when you're angry about something, but you don't want to dust up about it. And you might also feel that maybe your anger isn't justified, but you still feel angry.
Right.
So you're late picking somebody up from the bus stop, particularly when it's raining. And you'll apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry. I got stuck in traffic and everything. And meanwhile, inside you are soaked, and I'm happy. Yeah. You know, that is just horrific.
No, but I'll admit, I've done that.
Oh, yeah.
You've done it? Yeah.
Everybody does passive aggressive at one level or another.
You just don't know you're doing it.
Yeah.
You just don't,
well, see, and that's just it. That's just it. People don't recognize that as not the greatest technique.
You just think you're avoiding confrontation, but really you're still doing something negative.
And that seems honorable, doesn't it? That does seem like, you know, I'm still getting to deal with my feelings. I feel better about bugging them or having them wait around.
It does make you feel a little bit better, even though it's not right.
It
does make you feel better.
Yeah, it's not the greatest strategy.
No.
What's the third one?
It's like that commercial, sorry, I just saw it the other day, where you're trying to be a bad woman and the woman flushes the toilet while her husband's in the shower.
Yes, stuff like that.
I've done that.
Yeah, my kids have done that. I got to rethink what's going on there.
So what's the third?
The third one, and again, back to the fancy language in psychology, we've got what we call an ironic solution pattern. And that sabotages a relationship through good intentions. So she complains that he doesn't help around the house enough. Okay. So he starts picking up his socks and underwear. Okay. But in doing so, figures, well, I'm doing what I need to do, and I ought to get credit for it. And boy, should you admire what I've done. And she's thinking socks and underwear, that's about 5% of what needs to be done. So he's busy working, and he thinks he's doing a good job. You know, like, be proud of me, look what I've done.
I picked up my socks, Mommy.
Yeah, I think he solved the problem, and all he's doing is actually making her more angry because, he thinks that's all there is to keeping the house? So it's an ironic solution pattern that he thinks he's helping, and he's actually making it worse. And ironic solution patterns get really complicated.
They sound complicated.
They are, and sometimes it's a real trick to identify them.
Because they're not intentionally sabotaging.
No, that's just it. I had a client one time. She wanted to spend time with her kids from a previous marriage, but her new husband was very jealous. And she would call leaving from work saying, okay, what are you making for dinner? And that became code for how long is it going to take you to make dinner, because I want to sneak out and go see my kids. He was very jealous and would get very angry when she would ask, you know, she's calling home, she's checking, finding out what's going on, but she knew that, or he knew that she wasn't really interested in how long is dinner. It's, do I have time to deke out? And so then he stopped taking phone calls and everything. And we could go back and explain, okay, so we got an ironic solution pattern here. We need to deal with your jealousy. We need to deal with your upset. We got to deal with those issues.
So does sabotage usually happen in a long-term relationship like that? Or is it before you want the relationship to go further and you're kind of cutting it off in the path?
The immature, the people who aren't really good at relationships, I don't see them in my office, obviously, because I see people with troubled relationships. They wouldn't even bother crossing the threshold. You don't often see the direct sabotage. You do sometimes, clinically. More often, though, you see tons of passive aggressiveness and you see tons of ironic solution patterns.
No, the passive aggressiveness, is that more men or more women do the passive aggressive?
Yeah, like how do men sabotage a relationship and how do women sabotage it?
Exactly the same way.
Really?
Oh yeah, exactly the same way.
Women would be more conniving and, I don't know, smarter about it.
No, it has more to do with level of intellect. If you're smart, you're going to be real clever about doing it. If you're not, it's going to be a little bit more obvious and easier to identify. But no, men and women, they use the same techniques at about the same rate.
So do affairs count as sabotage?
That's the worst kind of sabotage.
Yeah, that's in the hierarchy of sabotage.
That's when you want to get out and you want to get caught.
That's the red zone, isn't it?
I mean, other than treating your kids badly, I mean, that's treating your partner badly. That's at its most fundamental. I mean, there's dozens of reasons for why people have affairs, but it's most fundamental. What you're saying when you're having the affair is, I'm willing to see the relationship end.
Okay, I know it's hard to say, like in a small period of time, how to handle someone who's sabotaging or being passive aggressive, but maybe you can give some small tips for people.
The passive aggressive one is probably the most common, and you can really diffuse it. You can really deal with passive aggressiveness by asking people about it. So I show up late because I'm angry with you, and you're all soaked, and I say, yeah, I was really stuck in traffic, and you say, you know, maybe that's what it was, but I think you're angry about me, about the fact that we didn't have what you wanted to have for dinner last night. When you challenge the person...
Well, we're going to deny it. I would deny it. I'd be like,
but at least you're thinking about it.
But the whole deal. So
Yeah.
the next time I try to be late, the context has already been set.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is this about? Is this really
knows
about
that,
traffic?
yeah.
If you identify it, if you say, you know what, I think this is passive aggressive, you rob it of its power.
Yeah.
Give it a little label.
Call them on it.
Call them on it right
Yeah.
away.
Dr. Guy Grenier, you're so good. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for fixing our relationships. When we come back, we'll be fixing doors. Stay with us.
That was
relationships to
doors. We're
It's
fixing
so
everything.
It's a mess.